Priory Park. Chichester's own village green lies within the walls of the northeast quadrant of the city. The park is steeped in history, dating back to the Romans. In September 2018, the park was the focus for a very special celebration called Priory Park 100.
Priory Park 100 is a celebration of the centenary of the park being given by the 7th Duke of Richmond to the people of Chichester. It was given for two reasons. Firstly, as a place of recreation, but secondly, as a perpetual war memorial to the fallen in the Great War. The anniversary week will conclude on the actual anniversary date, which is September the 30th, 2018.
Priory Park 100 was organised by the Friends of Priory Park, and planning for the celebration began in the spring of 2017.
Please give a big round of applause for your host today, Philip Jackson. Thank you.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Castersbrook. It is a great pleasure to be able to host this garden event.
Exactly 1 year before the actual anniversary, a soft launch was held to gain support and sponsors for the event.
Well, as chairman of the Friends, I'd like to say a few words about Priory Park and Priory Park 100. Actually, it was on this very day, September the 30th, back in 1918, the 7th Duke of Richmond and Gordon generously gifted Priory Park to the people of Chichester.
Held in the wonderful garden of renowned sculptor Philip Jackson, the launch provided an opportunity to meet potential sponsors and talk about what the organisers wanted to achieve during anniversary week.
One of the first things we had to arrange was actually to try and get mermaking back into the Guildhall. It actually hadn't been held in the Guildhall for about 184 years.
In 1541, the friary church within the grounds of Priory Park was sold to the city when it became known as the Guildhall. Mermaking ceremonies were held there on an annual basis. The last mermaking of the Guildhall took place on the 22nd of September 1834. From then onward, it was moved to the Council House. This appears to have been prompted by a change in legislation that included putting to an end the extravagant banquets and jollification associated with mermaking.
So we decided to approach the City Council and the Mayor to see whether they would bring mermaking back to its original place in the Guildhall.
On the 16th of May 2018, mermaking returned to the Guildhall for the first time in 184 years.
When we were putting together the programme for Priory Park 100, we really wanted to reflect the history and heritage of the park. So we'd think of things which actually had happened in the park, such as the 1642 siege of Chichester, and then we would reenact it. We also thought about the cricket. In fact, Priory Park was almost the birthplace of international cricket with W.T. Grace. So we'd have a cricket match to reflect that. But what was really important was, I think, the reason why the park was given in the first place, which was as a perpetual memorial to those that fell in the First World War. That we thought we'd do a rather special drumhead service.
With Priory Park 100 planned to coincide with the actual centenary at the end of September, the weather was always going to be a big concern. With 2 days to go, it looked like those concerns would become a reality. After a magnificent summer, the UK was hit by the remnants of Hurricane Helena, followed a day later by Storm Alley.
So 2 days before the event, everything was in place. All the planning had been done, the tents were arriving, but there was one thing hanging over us. The weather forecast showed a storm on its way for the Saturday and Sunday, a severe storm with high winds. So that put an extra bit of pressure on us.
My great-great-grandfather who gave this park 100 years today, literally, to the city of Chichester in memory, of course, of the fall in the First World War.
The Duke of Richmond and Gordon, with the Mayor, Councillor Martin Bell, officially opened the celebrations and cut the anniversary cake.
Everybody, please, in front of the cafe.
The first event of the celebrations was Hands Around the Park, led by the town crier and members of the ancient corporation of St Pancras, known as the Wheelbarrow Club. Everyone entered into the spirit of the celebration despite the weather.
Happy birthday, Priory Park! Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
As feared, the parachute jump by the Royal Navy raiders became the only casualty of the bad weather. However, the other main event, Art in Action, benefited from the inclement weather with a steady stream of visitors in the Guildhall. English Civil War, December 1642. Cannon fire from the tower of St Pancras Church can be heard bombarding the East Gate and beyond. Initially, Chichester was in the hands of the parliamentarians led by local MP William Cawley. But as a meeting took place in the Guildhall, Royalist forces seized control of the defenders' cannons. In response, Parliament sent Sir William Waller with 6,000 troops to the city of Chichester. On the 21st of December, they mounted a siege and many skirmishes took place around Priory Park. 7 days later, Waller took the city for Parliament and established his headquarters within the park at Priory House. On the first Sunday, the sealed knot took visitors back in time to the days of the Civil War. As the sun smiled down on the celebrations for the first time, Sir Marmaduke Rawdon's regiment of foot demonstrated the skills and tactics employed during the skirmishes at the siege. The Guildhall has also been used as a courthouse. William Blake was tried here in 1804. It was here, in 1748, that the trial of the Hawkers gang of smugglers took place. In October 1747, smugglers, including members of the notorious Hawkers gang, broke into a warehouse in Poole to liberate their confiscated cargo. On their flight eastwards, the gang kidnapped customs officer William Galley and an informant, Daniel Chater, and brutally murdered them.
William Galley, officer of the Port of Southampton. At your service. I am an employee of the King's Customs and Excise. I have been sent from the Port of Southampton to escort your husband to Justice Batty in the city of Chichester.
7 of the gang were captured and stood trial in the Guildhall with a grand jury of 26 men under 3 judges.
So hang their bodies high upon the broil. All honest men from murderers must recoil.
The trial lasted 3 days, and the men were condemned to death. Their execution took place in the gallows field on the broil. As part of the celebrations, the premiere of a play, Hawkers Gang, written by Greg Moss and based on a book written by an anonymous gentleman of Chichester in 1749, was held in the Guildhall. Priory Park has a long tradition celebrating important occasions. Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee in 1897, celebration of peace in 1919 following the end of the Great War, King George V's Silver Jubilee in 1935, and, of course, the royal visit by Queen Elizabeth II in 1956. Common to many of these celebrations were the tea parties and games involving local children. To honour that tradition, the Teddy Bears Picnic attracted a large number of children and parents accompanied by their teddy bears. Dukes of Richmond and Gordon have a long association with motorsport, and this continues today. It was, therefore, fitting that the Rolls-Royce Enthusiasts Club provided a procession of wonderful cars, led by the Chichester town crier.
Of a meteorite or an explosion above the ground.
Astronomy in the park attracted much interest.
Entire conurbation of London, as it is today.
Volunteers from the South Downs Planetarium, led by Dr. John Mason, provided an opportunity to learn about space, hold and touch meteorites, safely observe the sun, and stargaze late into the evening. Sport has always been an important part of Priory Park's history and heritage. In 1850, the 5th Duke of Richmond and Gordon granted a lease to the Priory Park Society, who remodelled it as a recreation ground and ornamental park. It opened officially on the 15th of May the following year, with members paying a guinea apiece for the key to the gates. A bowling green was established at the outset. Records show that Chichester Bowling Club was officially formed in 1881, and the game thrives to this day. The Edwardian Bowls reenactment, staged by the Bowling Club, paid a fitting tribute to the game's heritage.
We are a number of shots down, Reverend.
Over the years, many other sporting events have taken place in the park, including cycling, athletics, and football. Since opening in 1851, Priory Park and cricket have been inseparable. Chichester Priory Park Cricket Club was founded in 1851 and has close links with Test and county cricket. The park hosted its earliest first-class match in 1852, when Sussex played an All-England 11. One of the club's members, James Lillywhite, led an All-England team to Australia in 1876-77 on a tour which ended with a match recognised as being the first ever Test. In 1882 and 1886, the touring Australians played in Priory Park when they took on Lord Marcher's 11 and also played against the United 11. It was in the Australians' match against the United 11 that the great W.G. Grace played on the ground. Sussex last played on the ground in 1950 against Glamorgan. So it was with great excitement that an estimated 1,500 spectators arrived on Saturday to witness the historic comeback of Sussex County Cricket Club after 68 years to play the Duke of Richmond's 11 in the centennial celebration match. The crowds were treated to a closely fought match, and it only seemed fitting that the Duke of Richmond's 11 won the match on the very last ball. Early on Sunday the 30th, exactly 100 years since the park was given to the people of Chichester, preparations were nearing completion for the drumhead service.
Halt!
It was on this day, in 1918, that the 7th Duke of Richmond and Gordon gave the park to the people of Chichester not only as a place of recreation, but as a perpetual war memorial to the fallen in the First World War. The date is significant because it was 6 weeks before the armistice. Priory Park, therefore, has a double distinction. Not only was it unusual for a park to be a war memorial, but also it was an early homage to those who perished.
It is a great honour to welcome all of you to Priory Park this morning for this very special drumhead service to mark the gift of this park to the people of Chichester 100 years ago as a memorial to those from this city who died during the First World War. And I particularly like when
The service was conducted by Canon Simon Holland against a backdrop of poppies made by local schoolchildren.
today it's almost impossible to imagine Chichester without Priory Park. There can be no park in Britain that is more beautiful than this one, nor one that has a richer history. But Priory Park will always be a reminder of the men and women who between 1914 and 1918 left this city for Gallipoli or France or other places, and who in so many cases failed to return.
As a grown-up old, and weeds in a left grow, mate, shall I wear again, till the years pass. But going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
At the end of the service, 35 children from Parklands Primary School each read out 10 names of the 350 local men who died on active service.
James Pearson, Joseph Percy Penfold.
After each 10 names, a pigeon was released carrying a message of peace, the first from the loft of Her Majesty the Queen. Following the name reading, there was a mass release of 200 more birds. To conclude the service, the specially formed 100 choir, conducted by Emily Barden, performed, accompanied by the Chichester City Band. Following the service, the Duke of Richmond unveiled the restored plaque which records his great-great-grandfather's gift.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, honoured guests, I now call upon the 11th Duke of Richmond to actually unveil the restored plaque from the 7th Duke of Richmond given to the city. There we go. There we are. Thank you very much.
The week-long celebrations came to an end when the Guildhall reverted to its original purpose as a place of worship. Sunday evensong was transformed from the cathedral for a special service and a blessing of the park.
Well, at the end of the event, when we'd have the evensong and the blessing of the park, I felt, well, relieved, but also very pleased that things had gone really well. I don't think we could have bettered the last 2 days. The cricket match was fantastic, and the drumhead service was everything I'd hoped it to be. But I couldn't have done it without the help of many people, including the Friends of Priory Park, the Rotary clubs, the 3 Rotary clubs of Chichester and Goodwood, and many others. So it was really a community effort and a community feeling at the end of the whole Priory Park 100 anniversary week.
Noted for its open space, calm ambience, and as a safe place for children to play, Priory Park is in every sense Chichester's own village green. The events of the centenary anniversary gave the people of Chichester and surrounding area an insight and raised awareness of the park's rich 1500-year heritage. As the sun sets on what was a wonderful week of celebration, Priory Park 100 will also become part of that history and heritage.